welcome you here again in this master class on the labor law compliance. It is a present issue facing by the organization and the future prospect as a labor law compliance specialist. How you can propel your career if you are working professional as a HR and taking care the part of compliances. If you are a person who is in the services providing to the clients, so you will get and learn the new concept how you can more effectively develop a system in your organization to get appraisal or appreciation from your client so that they can recommend you to their other colleagues and knowns, and it will help you to increase your businesses too. If you are in the profession, it will also help you when you develop or this system you execute this at your organization. It will help you to grow and build that credibility of the higher performing person as a labor law compliance person or the administrator in the organization. So welcome you here again. Here I'm sharing with you the schedule. Although this schedule has been shared with you, and in the schedule we have divided in three separate rooms, and for that we have three separate rooms. However, the link has been provided single one to you, and that will be system we have developed that you will automatically connect it to all the three rooms. However, in between you get disconnected, so don't worry for that. You will be automatically connected to the room specifically when it may be happen, or otherwise if due to some disconnectivity or some internet issue, so utilize that link which has been shared with you on the group as well as the mail and to reconnect with this session. So what we are covering in the first section of this program, so here the SBR Learning Studio related introduction, then introduction of me, who am I, and with whom you are learning the interactive new concept or the advanced concept related to the labor law compliance management in the organization. Then we will cover majorly the issues by the different applicable labor law in the organization, and the second part of the issues which facing by the organization when the new codes will be implemented soon. However, it was first intimated that it will be implemented from the 1st October, but now it has been coming as it is for sure that by the beginning of 2022, the new codes will be implemented, and you should be well aware and well prepared for the new changes happening in the labor law areas and which will be applicable for your organization. So all that things we will cover here thoroughly and very practically what you need to be do to assure all compliance need in your organization. However, the present plan as well as the future prospect related to the labor law compliance. Then, in the second section of this program, you will specifically learn or advanced concept related to the develop labor law compliance and management portfolio. This will help you in the two ways. One, provided you the career USP, unique selling proposition, where you can brand yourself as a labor law compliance specialist when you execute the system which I will share with you during this master session today. And then the third section that is specifically divided for the question and answer section. So it is total 2 and 30 minute, 2 hours and 30-minute program. However, it can go beyond. In the previous session which we have covered, we have experienced 3 and 4 times the session go beyond 3 hours. So when it is most important, when you ask the interactive question, your queries will be there. So it will become great learning for all the participants as well as to us, where we also want to improve our sharing and what are the knowledge we are imparting here for improving your skills related to labor law compliances. So here now about the SBR Learning Studio, where you are interacting and learning on the platform. So this organization was established in May 2020. So now we are 1.5 year old organization with the objective to provide a learning platform. We are in the digital learning as of now. However, we have recently expanded some other businesses also, but most Importantly, we are in the learning platforms where we provided the learning solution for every individual expected or expected individual groups and the professionals in a reasonable cost. And this organization was established with the vision to influence or educate 100 million people by 2040. So that's why, with the best of knowledge, that need for the true professionalism as per the future requirement or the changes happening in the area of professionalism, as well as which is known also as the job and services also. Then we are also on a mission to influence or educate 25,000 people as a student every year from our digital learning or through our digital learning platform. We have also initiated a value mission for ourselves, that is every person who is connected with us that are a customer, and we are looking forward with them long-term association as a valuable. So that's why the groups or the community you have connected today, so that you can utilize for the future. If you have any query related to the future, any working area, you can ask that. Most probably that question will be answered with an effective answer that will get you the specifically the specific area specialized knowledge related to the issue that may happen at your workplace. So it is not only for this. After completing of this master session, you will not come connected with us, so the community provided to you for the interaction at the lifetime with this master class also. Then it comes to the SBR Learning Studio, where we are existing and what we do exactly. We are in specifically different type of services. So recently we have upgraded our services. So we are also in the licensing services related to the approvals and factories related, then other industry related approval and licensing with the government and the public industries or the public services provider. Then corporate consulting we are also provided, and then we provided the mentoring and coaching services to the individual as well as the groups. Then we have also services related to the professional resume services, which we say that we build the resume. We do not write, we build. We train the people to write their own resume, because people itself know that what they are doing and what is their KSA knowledge, skill, and ability. So it is the blueprint of your capability. Then we are in the digital learning solution. So as of now, we are mostly in the digital learning. Then we are also providing the services related to the digital library. We have a dedicated digital library. You can check out that our website, and where we provided a solution from the global leaders, even that in the personal development, productivity, enhancing of the transformation. So such type of variety of book learning you will get in the digital libraries. Then after, in the digital learning platform, we provide a solution for the personal development through different programs, and then the professional development programs we have there. We have a specifically dedicated program related to the entrepreneurial development. The person who are aspirant to develop their capability in the entrepreneurial area. So we also provided such solutions. Then leadership development program and business leader development program specifically for the corporate as well as the individual also. Then here now where you can reach to us or connect with us. So as dedicatedly we are available at the emails, then our social media platforms available, and our website is www.azuretrend.com, where you can search about us, what we are, who we are, and what we do as a services. Then we have a digital learning platform where we provided the digital learning solution, and at that solution we have different courses available, as I have shared with you the five category of courses that are available at our digital learning platform. Then we have some social media platform where we provided the insights and freely knowledge to our communities to enhance their knowledge, specifically in the soft skill learning areas, then the HR learning specifically, and then the people who want to learn from the great leader, but they do not have time related to the reading of books. So we provide the short summaries, very specifically 4 to 5 or 6 minute summary in that, where you can get the best of knowledge from the global leaders what they have written. Then after it come to the second part related to the different courses. As of now, we have more than 18 courses live in our digital platform that we have divided in the five categories. As I mentioned here, that personal development, professional development, entrepreneurial development, and leadership, as well as business leaders development. And furthermore, the courses we are offering at the platform that are specifically in the personal development program, there we are providing the 6 to 7 areas of the courses. Then it is the professional learning, it is more than 8 courses available, you can check out that. But here, due to the specifically designing of time, so I will not explain it more here. So you can check out our website, that is the www.azuretrend.com. Then there are the entrepreneurial development programs and the leadership development program as the then the business leader development program will be also provided at our digital learning platform. It is the one-to-one coaching as well as the group coachings too. Then now it comes to the person with whom you are interacting today, and you will interact for further 2.5 hours in this master class to be related to the labor law compliance. So my name is Srinivasan K.S. and I have done my LLB MBA from the Indian reputed institution, and I have more than 18 years of experience in HR. I have worked with the multinational organization as well as the Indian big giants for the India as well as the Southeast Asia. So now I am having a facilitator part for the labor law compliances with the Sbr Learning Studio. And this is all about me. And now let's start with the session today and what are the specifically the part covering. So going forward in the session and covering with the most of the covering delivering to you, I have here one or two most important questions for you that you need to or you require to answer in the chat box. The question is, what are the four what are the four important or success quality of a labor law compliance specialist is? I'm reading the question which you have to answer quickly. Then after we will go further in the session deep and understanding the present issue by the organization and how you can help by tomorrow when you implement such new concept which I'm sharing with you in the organization, and you can help your organization. So question is that what are the four qualities of a labor law compliance specialist, or that are the essential success skill of a labor law compliance? What you see, it is not exactly you need to share that. I'm explaining that to you and how you can develop that. I will share the concept with you for that. But before going deep in understanding the session and its requirement for the organization as well as an individual, you are as a professional or in the profession of related to the HR as well as dealing with the labor law compliances. So it should be. It is more important to understand that your level for that understanding those four qualities. That four qualities will help you to branding yourself as a specialist, and that will provide you a value, and that value will also provide you career succession. So write in the chat box the four success qualities of a labor law compliance specialist. I'm waiting for your answer, and when I will get some unique answer for one or two member, I'm not expecting to all member should answer. So one or two member they can ask and they can say and they can answer, and so that it should be exactly as similar to the expecting quality. So Shweta is saying here patience, adaptability, and knowledge. Uh, it is not as a four quality, that are the broad quality which required. It is the soft skill and specifically the human skill required for dealing with a human. It is also known as the emotional intelligence. So communication is Sanam Rene saying communication. Okay, that is a very beginning part of the communication. And efforts, okay, that's also efforts you required everywhere in your life to have efforts to complete anything. Okay, thank you so much for your answer. And Vishal Bhatt is saying quick and consistent learning of labor laws. That may be little bit. So learning is a one thing, but the most important thing is how effectively you can execute your learning in an effective way. That will help first yourself as an individual and then the organization to whom you are working. So here I'm sharing with you the four qualities, success qualities of a labor law compliance specialist that will today we'll learn these four qualities and that will help you in career succession, as well as if you are a business provider, that will also help you to develop the new concept and the new system for your clients. So that are the number one. The person who is in labor law compliance, he should be more vigilant. Rajesh is saying reduce the risk of company from act, okay, to reduce the IR issue because they we updated and goodwill to the company. Yeah, that is also part with related to the dealing of the people. So when you are in the IR specifically, IR industrial relation is specifically the part of management as well as the employee or the worker you are in. So that is the part there you require it. But when I talking about specifically the compliances, it is the part the organization, because you are the representative of the employer. If you are dealing with the attentive toward minutes detail, yeah, it's near about the first one. So that is the vigilant. So when you have the every minute update related to the level of compliances, it will help you to become more vigilant. Second skill is the foresighted. What is going to be happen next and how you have to deal with that, you should be prepared for that. Then the accountability and responsibility, these are the four essential skills of a labor law compliance specialist. You are learning these four skills in this master program today. However, why these four skills are required for a labor law compliance specialist? Because there is a pain point for the every employer in the organization. They want to have a 100% compliance in the organization, but it is not possible as of now. We have seen many organizations. I have worked for more than 18 years in the organization, and we have many clients in throughout India. So they have still the pain point how to deal exactly with compliances, the compliances which required specifically facilitate the provision in the organization so that there the obligation cannot be kept unfulfilled. If that are unfulfilled, that will impact the three areas of your employer. One is their business, their image, and their reputation. So these are the three important part. And now from this program, you are learning how you can help your employer to save their image, business, and their reputation in the area or in the domain specifically they are in the business. So let's begin with this session. So today what we are covering in this master session, so we will cover specifically the existing labor laws which mostly impact the organization. However, we have different industrial sector, as I have mentioned in the beginning. So there are the three industrial sector broadly in India, so which has been divided all the industry in three sectors. So first sector is the primary sector. That sector, the industries specifically who are dealing with the natural resources, only processing that. And second is the secondary sector. That is the most important and most operational and impactful sector of the businesses, and where the most of the labor law which are applicable in India applies to the secondary industry. And then third, it is the territorial. Territorial is specifically the service industry, the hotel, the restaurant, the ITs. So that I have not too much labor law which they need to comply with, that straight and specific requirement which they need to be followed in the organization. So that's why we are covering the most of the laws applicable which define the area of condition in the organization, and that define the specifically the organization what they need to do as a representative of your employer, how you can deal with that and provide a solution to your organization with a dedicated system that I am sharing with you. You are learning in this program today. So let's begin with what we are covering today. So we will cover specifically the Factories Act, shop and commercial. Because in the India, so there are the two types of industry specifically. One is the manufacturing industry. So that is the 60% of the industrial businesses is based on the factories and the manufacturing setup. So that's why, for example, we have discussing today and covering the factories specifically. Then here I'm discussing about the different applicable existing labor law which we are covering here for sure that are related to the factory. Most of the industrial part are impacting by the labor law that is the manufacturing. So manufacturing come under the Factories Act. Then there are the shop and commercial, that the other industry, even that are the your infrastructure, then your service industry, ITs that come under shop and commercial establishment. And in these two sectors of industrial establishment, there are the other applicable labor law which define the service condition to the employee who you are engaging, or the employer are engaging in the organization to fulfill their business need. That are the bonus act, the contract labor act. You are engaging the manpower through contractor, which is also known as outsourcing manpower. So that act are also important for the employer, and there are certain obligations which are required to be fulfilled by the employer. Then their wage, and that wage which is defined or prescribed by the government. And India, the government prescribed one minimum wage, and that you need to be paid with the norm provided under the Payment of Wage Act 19. Then gratuity is specifically one of the act which have a special provision provided no one other act have been prescribed such provision. The gratuity that have specific provision provided, that is the single law which provide a specific provision. I will share with you that later what is that and why you need to be very much specific about this act. Then the social security related act, which is the PF and ESIC, then industrial standing order specifically, which is a code of conduct for every organization, how you need to deal with that. Then safety compliances is the most of the compliances you need to be faced in every organization. Then there are the certain provision provided related to the committees, so that we are covering. And then further, as per the existing labor act which are applicable as of now, we are following and we are complying with them. There are the new four codes which has been initiated, assented by the President of India, are ready for the implementation. We will also cover that, what you need to do and how you will be perfectly prepared for those labor laws in terms of their applicability for your organization. So let's begin with the factories first. However, we are covering majorly the manufacturing setup we have in most of the industrial establishment in India. So that's why the factory is one of the industrial establishment where the most of the labor law, Indian labor law applies. And the Indian labor law specifically that has been enacted with the objective. There are the three objectives. One is provided the welfare, their safety provision, and health provision for the every individual whom you are engaging in the organization. So here I'm specifically sharing the what are the pain points under different applicable labor law your employer are facing, that are practically they are facing, and there are many practices which has been adopted that are not illegal, that are not legal practices which has been adopted to comply with these requirement of the applicable labor law for the organization. That's why most of the organization or employer they are facing that pain, and most of the people who are dealing with the labor law compliances, they are kicked out. So I'm also sharing with you how you can rebuild your credibility in the organization and without any illegal practices in your organization, so that you can develop a level of compliance and management portfolio that will help yourself as an individual in the career growth as well as in the organization to save their three major areas: their business as well as their individual image as well as their business reputation in the organization or their domain specific. So the Factory Act is applicable for the every manufacturing process. So there are the certain pain points for the organization which require to be fulfilled as per the prescribed norms in the laws, that are the obligations which every organization as a factory they need to fulfill. If those obligations are not fulfilled, that will impact your organization, that there is specifically for your employer, he will be punished with the 3 years of imprisonment and then fine for up to 2 lakh rupees or cancellation of your business license as well as your free license specifically. So when that will be cancelled, and it will impact image, reputation, and the business of the organization. So under the Factories Act, there are the certain obligation which required. If you are already dealing with, you are specifically make those provision you are providing and facilitating in the organization. But when we go in the section 2 specifically, there we will learn how you can deal with the certain provision effectively and with a systematic way. So they, if you are working in the factory, so it is well known to you, you require approval and then licensing and registration under the provision. There, when you obtain the license, there has been instructed specifically for the following provision, you need to be facilitate in that with the certain criteria. So that you need to be facilitate there, that the health measure, safety measure, and the welfare measure. Then after, there are the certain industry. However, every manufacturing industry, there are certain hazard process available. Even that is a minor process or in the minor level, but you need to be follow certain provisions for that. That you need to be specifically understand, and that are the biggest obligation for the employer. Then there are the working hours, and specifically you need to be very much care about when you are defining the working hour for organization. However, somewhere in the organization, people will be in touch with them related to the working hour. They don't know how that working are specifically regulated and monitored, and what are their compliances related to these, and why the organization have such non-complying thing happen in the organization when certain inspection happen. So there are the certain provision related to the annual leave which you need to be facilitated in your organization. Then there are certain provisions provided related to the display of the abstract, the notices. Even that notice of work you need to be displayed at the specific dedicated place which has been defined under the law. If that is not there, it is the obligation for the organization, and there will be non-conformity for it. And now in the new labor code, however, earlier in the existing labor code of the factory, so there is a provision related to 3 years of imprisonment and maximum fine up to 2 lakh rupees. But when the new code will be implemented, the fine is going to be dramatically increased. So that will impact financially now the employers. That's why you need to be very much prepared about the future. It will also help you in the career growth. If these obligations which has been prescribed in the law, you do not fulfill them, so that will impact your organization. Specifically, the employer, who is employer as per the factory. So employer is the one person who has been appointed by the member of that board of a director, and he is the responsible person related to the compliances. So if you are dealing with, you are the representative of your employer. If any obligation come, if there is an imprisonment, it will not for you, it will be for your employer. He will be going to the jail. So that's why you need to be very much prepared and very much specific about the small and basic requirements which will impact your org. So these are the obligations related to the factories you require to fulfill. How you have to fulfill, I will share that in the second section of this program. Then similarly, the industries which are not factory and do not cover or come into the provision of factories, that come for the provision related to the shop and commercial establishment. Even that is the hotel, a restaurant, you shop, and then your ITs, BPOs, every industries that is covered under the shop and commercial establishment. Similarly, as for the factories, there you required the registration that become make the entity or the establishment as a legal entity, and for that, when that registration you obtain, there are the specific instruction provided what you need to be follow, and specifically you need to be facilitate in your organization. Similarly, the factories in the shop and commercial establishment, there are certain obligations prescribed under the law and its rule specifically. So that are the, you need to be defined the specific hours of your opening your organization and closing hours. There are also provided the provision that the restriction of a dual employment, that you need to be very much specific for that. How to assure the there should not be dual employment. The person you are engaging as an employee of a commercial establishments. Then the working hours for the young person where you can engage them in specific area that you need to be followed. Then after you need to be make specifically provision related to the weekly holidays, and that should be with wage. However, there will be also questions related to the factory. So that if you are providing the weekly off to them, do they need to be paid or not? So when it comes to the concern related to the working hour condition of employment, it will be connected all the law. However, that is providing the restoration to factory and separately for the shop and commercial when it comes to the defining the specific structure as well as the standard for the working condition. So it every level law that are interconnected, and you need to be very much assured about that and how that need to be deal with the provision provided under the labor law. Then similarly, as per the factory, you need to be facilitate the health measure, the safety measure, and welfare measure in the organization. And special precaution related to the fire, you need to be required there. And if these obligations, which has been prescribed under the Shop and Commercial Establishment Act, not fulfilled, there is a provision of the fine up till 1 lakh rupees and cancellation of your business license. Means the registration provided to the industries which come in the shop and commercial establishments. Then it is after further every organization who has been registered, even that are factory, shop and commercial, and that are companies, that are the obligation they need to be paid the bonus to every and each employee as per the bonus act 1965. So it is applicable to all where the 20 or more person you are engaging, and it is mandatory to pay as per the accounting year. However, there are also that provision related to the exemption for the new establishments. Here, you need to be very much specific about the new establishment. New establishment means that should be incorporated as new. If it is a new premises, if it is a new factory, if it is a new office at the another state, so it will be the unit of a primary organization where the bonus act become applicable. So when it in the part of related to the payment of bonus for the new organization, so it will be for the incorporated new establishment only, not for the new setup of a one establishment who has been already incorporated in 20 years back. Then there will be certain provision. There is also the obligation that the minimum bonus you need to be paid at 8.33% of the salary of wages you are paying to your employee as well as your worker. Then certain submission of return you required. So specifically, the return you are submitting, that is the status of compliance. You are complying as per the requirement. If that is not proper, how to submit and how to prepare data for that, how to collect data for that, and that data is not accurate, it will also impact your organization, and that is also a biggest obligation for that. If these obligation prescribed under the bonus act or the payment of bonus act 1965, so there is the provision for the 6 months of imprisonment to your employer and fine up to 1,000 rupees. However, fine is not too big, but the imprisonment for 6 months is the biggest challenge and biggest pain for your employer. However, you are the representative for that. If it is not fulfilled, so you can also leave the organization, but the employer, it will be biggest challenge for. So that's why there is an uncertainty in the area or the people who are in the field dealing with the compliance. So here I'm sharing with you the new concept how you can systematically develop a system in your organization which will help you to have a neat and clean compliance provision in organization. Every organization, even that are the factory or shop and commercial establishment, they are engaging the manpower, which is known in the corporate language as the outsourced manpower. So that comes under the purview of the contract labor 1970. if you are engaging certain manpower in your organization. However, practically every organization they are engaging like that housekeeping people you are in, the pantry people you are in your organization, then security guard you have in your organization, that all are the outsourcing manpower that come under the provision of the Contract Labor Act 1970. Contract labor, however, the principal employer that is sharing or that their compliance part they are shifting to the contractor, but exactly under the provision of the Contract Labor Act 1970, the principal employer is responsible or mainly responsible for complying for the provision provided or prescribed under the Contract Labor Act 1970. So what are those obligations which are required to be fulfilled and that you need to be sure? Like there should be a restoration for the employer as well as the contractor. So specific provision provide how you need to be obtain that restoration. Then provided some engagement certificate to your contractor, then he need to be apply for the contract labor. Then there are the contractor license. Then you need to be facilitate that health and welfare measure for the contractor worker. However, it is the responsibility of the contractor, but the contractor do not deploy their manpower their own location or premises that is deployed at your premises, means the principal employer premises. What are the provisions provided there related to the health, welfare, and safety that you need to be facilitate to the contractual manpower also. So under the provision of the Contract Labor 1970, the principal employer is responsible for payment of the wage which are due to the contract labor or the contractual manpower. Then certain records you need to be maintained that here also provided the provision that the all the records which should be maintained in refer to or in according to the contract labor that should be in the supervision of the principal employer. It means the Contract Labor Act 1970 also have certain obligation for the principal employer which are required to be fulfilled. If those obligations are not fulfilled, there is the provision of the 3 months of imprisonment to the principal employer, not the contractor. First instance, it is for the principal employer and fine up to 1,000 rupees and cancellation of their registration certificate. Then after you cannot engage in contractual manpower, it will become illegal. Then thereafter it come to when you are engaging manpower in your organization for your business necessities, that is your direct manpower as well as your outsourcing manpower, so that you need to be pay them certain amount as a reward for that you are hiring them for a services. So that payment should be paid to them on a specific period of time that has been regulated by the Payment of Wage Act 1936. So under this act, there are many obligations which has been prescribed and required to fulfill by the employer. Like there is the responsibility of the payment to every person to whom any amount is due, that is the responsibility of the employer. Even that is the contract labor manpower, that is the responsibility of the principal employer. Then it is the responsibility of the employer that need to be fix the wage period as per the provision provided under the section 3 of the Payment of Wage Act. So that is for specifically if you have a some certain number engaging, so it is for 1,000 and less for the 7th of the next month, or otherwise if it is more than 1,000, so it is the 10th or maximum. If there is certain unpaid due, so it should not be more than 30 days. Then there's time and the mode of payment that need to be decided for the existing and terminated employee. And however, in the new, if recently you have listened or you have gone through related to the concept of the payment of wage, it is provided that every payment should be paid to any employee within the second day if that is that exit or terminated employee. This is also already provided under the provision of the Payment Wage Act, but Earlier, it was not in so much view, and the people not have such attention for that. Then you need to be maintain certain records, and specifically those records should be in a proper specific manner provided under the provision of the Payment of Wage Act 1936. If those obligations not fulfilled, so there is the 1 month imprisonment provision for the employer, and fine is not too biggest thing in the existing labor law, but the imprisonment for employer will impact what the three major part: one, their business, their image, and their reputation; then the financially too. Then similarly, the Minimum Wage Act 1948 that provided the provision related to the wage which has been prescribed by the state government as per law, that is the appropriate government defined under the provision of the law, and that wage you need to be paid to every individual employee you are engaging in your organization. And there are specifically obligations or these things you need to be consider or take care, like the minimum wage which has been prescribed by the government or appropriate government, means state government, because in India the minimum wage specifically defined by the or prescribed by the state government. And however, the minimum wage that has been defined, which every 6 month increase, that is not minimum, that is the dearness allowances which increase due to inflation every 6 months. However, in the 2021, we are in India following the minimum wage standard of 1991. That's why there are new provision has been accepted or introduced in the wage code 2019 related to the regulating and defining of the minimum wage. We will also discuss that in the later section. So further, there are the provision, and you cannot bifurcate the minimum wage which has been defined, that you need to be paid as it is to your employee. Then their mode of payment that is now become as the electronics, and however it should be as per the skill wise which has been defined and prescribed by the state government. If these obligations do not fulfilled by the employer, there is the provision of the imprisonment for employer. It is 6 months and fine, not too much under the provision, but the imprisonment is the biggest challenge and the pain point for your organization or your employer specifically, because employer is the only person he is responsible for complying all the provision in their organization. Then after it comes to the Gratuity Act or the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 is one of the act which provide a statutory right to an employee to claim their gratuity. Even that you are in the factory, you are in a shop and commercial establishment, any establishment, that the Gratuity Act is applicable for them, and it provides the right or the statutory right to the employee to claim the gratuity from their employer. So in that case, you need to be very much specific about the gratuity act and its provision. So what you need to be do, there are the certain obligation. So if any employee in your organization who has completed 5 years of services, so when you calculated it the 5 years of services, it should be 4 calendar years, then practically and 240 days of actual working, it will become he will become eligible for the gratuity, claiming of a gratuity. So you need to be very much assured about that the person who is working in your organization, their period you need to be updated. You need to be updated time to time so that there cannot be any obligation related to the gratuity. And if the person has been exit from your organization, so it should be clearly you need to be checked that the gratuity has been paid to him or not if he has completed 5 years of working in your organization. Then you need to be maintain the certain records related to the gratuity, and that gratuity should be paid during their full and final settlement. You need to be assured that if certain provision or obligation which has been prescribed or defined under the Gratuity Act 1972 not fulfilled, so that leads to the 1 year of imprisonment to the employer. Then it come to the Social Security Act, specifically the Employees Provident Fund Organization Act 1952, which provide the different schemes to facilitate the social security to the employee. So there it is provided that the coverage, every organization where it has minimum 10 employee, so that should be covered under the EPFO Act. Then their deduction and recovery on the remittance of the contribution, it is the responsibility of the principal employer or the employer. If it is you are engaging the manpower through contract or the outsourced manpower, so it is the responsibility of the principal employer to deduct, recover, and remittance all that contribution which is payable to the employee. However, payable means how many days he has worked. So it is calculated based on their, as of now, it is the capping of 15,000 rupees and their basic calculation. So based on that, whatever is that, but it should be deduction, it should be recovered, and the remittance of the contribution is required. Then the employer not to reduce wage, which you have the wage implemented for contribution, you cannot reduce such wage. So here we are covering about the obligation under the Employee Provident Fund Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952. So there are certain provisions. So there are the new implementation or initiative has been done related to the PF, and now earlier it was 20, and now every organization who are engaging 12 or 10, specifically 10 members in their organization in any day. It means when any day in your organization there are 10 members, that act will become applicable to you, and that you need to get register your establishment under the provision of the Employee Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act, and then after you need to be deduct the contribution for them, then recover that contribution. So because there are two type of contribution under the provision of the PF Act, one is employer part, second one is the employee part. So that employee part you need to be recovered from the employee, and that both the part you need to be remittance or submit to the, now there is the online procedure, and that you need to be submit to the EPFO organization. Then there are the certain obligations like that the wage you have incorporated for the implementation for any individual employee, where you are deducting the contribution for EPFO, that wage you cannot reduce. You need to be revise that further, but you cannot reduce. If you reduce that certain records, if that found by the record of the authorities, the field officer as well as the authority under the provision of the EPFO, that will a biggest obligation for your organization. Then there are the certain records you need to be maintained related to the contribution, their deduction, recovery, and remittance. Specifically, it is only your salary and wage which you are paying. Accordingly, you need to be deduct that, recover that, and remittance to the EPF organization. If such three major obligations, if you are not fulfilling, first one is coverage of your organization. Second one is your that deduction, recovery, and remittance of the contribution. And third one is specifically the wage you have one time defined and you have deducted. Specifically, if you one time start deducting the PF contribution of one wage, that you cannot reduce. If you have reduced that, it will be bigger obligation for you. If certain obligation prescribed under the provision of the act, so that it will be lead to the 1 year of imprisonment and fine up to 5,000 rupees. Similarly, the provision related to the EPFO, there are the provision provided by the ESIC Act, which is the Social Security Act, and provided the Social Security assistant or the health benefit to the employee. And for that, it is mandatory for every organization where it is applicable. However, ESIC earlier it was not applicable for throughout India; it was for specific area. But now there the new that intimation has been, however notification is not there as of now. The new intimation or implementation is that the ESIC will be applicable throughout India now, and if it is applicable where the organization they are engaging 10 or more employee in any day preceding 12 months, that you need to be covered under the provision of the ESIC. So there you need to be register your establishment or your organization, then accordingly you need to be deduct and recover and remittance the contribution under the provision of the Employee State Insurance Corporation Act 1948. Then it is mandatory the employee who cover or who come under the purview of the Employee State Insurance Act, and they need to be insured and they need to be provided the insurance card. And similarly the contribution, the first instant, that is the responsibility of the principal employer. Even you are engaging the manpower through the contract labor, so it is your responsibility first. Your means you are responsible, the employer, principal employer is the responsible for such contribution submitting or remitting under the provision of the ESIC Act. If such provisions are not fulfilled by the employer, so there is the provision as a punishment 3 years of imprisonment and fine up to 1,000 rupees, which required to be paid. 1,000 rupees, it is in the single non-fulfillment. If there are multiple obligations which are not fulfilled, so the fine will be multiplied accordingly. So it is not specifically that it will be only maximum amount of 10,000 rupees. It is for a one particular obligation. If there are multiple obligations, so it will be also multiplied accordingly. Then similarly, it is also the every organization you have, if you are working in the factory specifically and if you are working in the shop and commercial, so there you have a set standard of the service condition or service regulation, those regulation and the condition of services which has been applied and you have defined for your employee in your organization, that are regulated and referred and come from the Industrial Standing Order Act 1948, 46, not 48, that is 1946. However, the standing order have two specific obligation provided. One is the model standing order. If you are engaging the manpower less than 100 number, so there is the provision of the model standing order. You can implement that for the organization. If the manpower you are engaging more than 100 number, you need to be get a certified standing order. First thing is that. Then after the standing order is exactly the code of conduct, how an employee will behave in your organization, what is their service condition, how you will pay to them, what are the condition, how you will deal with their day-to-day activities, and how to record them, that are everything regulated under the provision of the standing order, the Industrial Employment Standing Order Act 1946. Even though every organization they have the appointment letter, all the condition or clauses you have in the appointment letter that are referring from the Industrial Standing Order. So it is very much important for the every HR people, they should be go through the Industrial Standing Order and its clauses and sections. So there is specifically the provision related to the certifying of the engaging of the manpower. However, there are also changing this during the COVID time. Many organizations they made it necessary for the organization get it certified with the 50 number of manpower. And now the new provision, it is also that it will be applicable for the certification or certifying standing order for more than 300 manpower you are engaging in your organization. So if the certain provision or the obligation not fulfilled by the employer, so there is the provision of fine up till 1,000 rupees. However, there the imprisonment is not there. So Sanam is asking question that from whom certified labor officer? Yeah, it is not from labor officer. So labor officer is the local authority. It should be certified by the Chief Commissioner of Labor. Chief Commissioner of Labor is every state, and the officer that will in the local labor office, it will be certified by the Chief Inspector of the state for the labor department. It will be certified by them. So there is a certain provision, you need to be submit 5 copies of that standing order. So what you are the condition you want to implement in your organization, and that you need to be have the 5 draft of that, you need to be submit that. And then after, there are also provision if you have some sister concern in a particular area, you have 5 or 6 organization, they clubly can have a single standing order, and that you need to make the provision for that. So there are this such procedure for that, how to get certified the standing order for your organization. First, that is that you need to be follow or go through the model standing order. If you are having or want to introduce your certain provision, so that you need to be certified that more than the 100 numbers, so it is mandatory to certify as of now in the existing law. So then it come to the new development happen in the specifically related to the workplace harassment of the women at workplace. In the 2013, there was a new law enacted by the Indian government. So that is the Post Act 2013. Under the provision of that act, it is now mandatory for every organization a certain provision which has been provided that need to be fulfilled. So there should be like the constitution of the internal complaint committee when there are 10 or more employees working in the organization. Even there are no female, you need to have the constitute the internal committee. Then you need to frame the policy for that. Then you need to be display the order of that committee, forming of that committee and the policy of that. Then display the every panel consequences which come to that committees. So then after you need to be provided the periodical educate training to the people who are in the committee and related to the post law. Only the member should be the person should be member of the and under the provision of the Post Act 2013. So it is a mandatory the member who will be there should be at least three members in the post committee or the internal complaint committee. So that one person should be from outside. If that will be the person who know the Post Act and he is certified in the Post Act, and otherwise he should be a member from any NGO, and they all the members should have thorough knowledge about the Post Act. Then after every employee whom you are engaging, who have in the employment in the organization, you need to conduct the awareness session for sensitizing the program or the provision of the act in your organization. Then there you need to be submit the annual report to the district officer. However, there the separate authority is not applicable as of now. There is the district officer is the authority under the provision. You need to submit the report to the related to the Post Act 2013 of the prevention, prohibition, and restoration of the harassment at workplace related to the female member specifically. Then there are the provision that the necessary facilitation and assistance you need to provide to the internal complaint committee. So if the internal complaint committee, if you are not facilitating the provision and the other assistant, they can also complain about not supporting in the cases whatever come to them the penal consequences. So it will also obligation for the employer. Then the implementation of all the recommendation which will be provided by the internal committee that required to be implemented. If these obligations in your organization not facilitated or the employer not fulfill all these obligations, so there is the provision specifically provided as a punishment 1 lakh rupees fine and cancellation of your business license. So as per the applicable labor laws, there are the certain pain points for the employer as obligation which required to be fulfilled by them. If not fulfilled, it is a bigger issue for them. So it is exactly, however, we have more than 76 years of independence and these laws are applicable and still that are improving and their condition are improving, but we still it is not like that the employer would have been assuring all the compliances foolproof as well as the complying with them. So there is the two reason behind them. One, the people who are dealing with them, they do not exactly proceed with them, or there are the malpractices you have started. That is the provision of that is the reason for the existing such pain point for your employer. So these are the different acts which we have covered in this section related to the pain point of the employer. For that, you need to learn or develop a system that help you, your organization and you as an individual to provide a certain specific way to deal with or comply the applicable provision of the law which are applicable to the organization, even that is factory, that is shop and commercial establishment, and that are the other organization also. The law implementation and their application are same to all, but you should learn about the specific basic understanding how you need to be develop that. So Sanam is asking please share format of annual report. So now it is the first section. So here we are covering the existing law. So now it comes to the provision of the new. So there in the second section I have already shared with you in the schedule. So that is the thorough section we have specifically designed to provide you the practical learning how you will develop that system. So whatever the templates or the format I'm going to share in this session, you will get them as it is for your future references and you can utilize them as it is. Even any part of India you are working in an organization, so you can implement that. There will be little bit changes you have to make, otherwise you can implement that. So just wait for the next section. So before that we will cover the publication in preview of the new labor code. Four new codes that has been assented by the government, they are ready for the implementation, still not implemented. We are discussing and sharing with you the provision which will be implemented when the new codes will be become effective for the organization. So what happened that the existing labor law, however we have discussed the 8 to 10 labor law in this previous section. So there such labor existing labor act and the other, including the other act, total the 29 center act was merged with the new labor codes. The four new labor code which has been enacted and by the president assent, it is ready to implementation. So that codes are the wage code 2019, specifically defining and regulating the wage system in India for the industrial employable or the industries. Then it is the industrial relation code specifically, which will regulate the employee and employee as well as the governmental relation with the organization, and that will be regulated by the industrial relation code, then specifically defining the working condition, their health, working condition and hours. So that has been enacted the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020, and separately for the Social Security Code 2020 related to the social security provided to the every sector of the industrial establishment and their employee. Even that provision of the engaging gig workers and the unorganized sector worker under the provision of social security. So the existing labor law which are defining these specifically the wage, industrial relation, and occupational safety, health, and working condition, and the social security that has been merged in the four new codes. So, what are these codes? In the Wage Code 2019, the four new existing major act has been merged. That is your Minimum Wage Act 1948, the Payment of Wage Act 1936, and the Payment of Bonus Act 1965. Then the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. What are the provisions available under the provision of these four acts which regulated and defined the payment of wage and wage related in India in the existing labor law that has been merged in the Wage Code 2019, and some new provision has been prescribed and incorporated. What are those? We will discuss that later. First, understand what are the existing labor act has been merged with the new codes. Then the Trade Union Act, the Industrial Employment Standing Act, the Standing Order Act 1946, the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, and the Weekly Holiday Act 1942 that has been merged in the Industrial Relation Code, specifically the Code of Condition or Conduct and Condition of Services in the organization that will be regulated by the Industrial Relation Code 2020. It is specifically related to the dealing or regulating the relation between employee and employer in the organization. Then after the specifically the Factories Act, Mines Act, Dock Worker Act 1986, then Building and Other Construction Work, then Contract Labor Act, the Interstate Migrant, and the Sale Promotion Employee. These existing centered labor law has been merged under the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Act. These are the laws which define the working hour condition and service condition in the industries related to employment. So now it has been merged under the provision of the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020. Then it comes to the Code on Social Security. So the existing Labor Act, which provide some compensation and provide some social security measures, that has been merged in the Social Security Code 2020. That is your Compensation Act 1923, the Employee State Insurance Act 1948, then the Employee Provident Fund, that Miscellaneous Provision Act 1952, and the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, Gratuity Act 1972, Building and Other Construction Work specifically provided the welfare cess under the provision of the Act 1996, and Employment Exchange Act, that has been merged under the provision of the Social Security Code. So these four Social Security codes are not separately new. It has been merged, or it is the result of the existing labor law. Then some reforms had been done in that with the new concept. So what are those concepts? Before that, what is the changes happen when these new codes will be implemented, and what will be changes happen in the organization? So let's have an overview of that scenario. So in the statutory requirement, as per the considering the existing labor law and then the new code will be implemented, there will be something change and the reforms happen. So related to the records you have to maintain and compliances you have to done. So based on that, certain things has been changed and have some relaxation related to the compliance and specifically maintaining of the records. So that if you see, as per the existing labor law which are applicable to the different industries, if we talk about the factories specifically, so there are near about 40 numbers of register or records you need to be maintained. But when these four new codes will be implemented, there are the only 11 records or register you need to be maintained. So then it comes to the return is specifically the compliance status. Periodically, there is a defined or specific period of time where you need to be submit the status of compliance of the provision prescribed under the law as per the registration, as per the approval you obtained for the applicability of the law in your organization. Then you need to submit the status that complying and having making the provision of such requirement or which has been prescribed under the law. So there are the provision existing as per the existing law, around 22 different returns you need to be submit. However, it is consolidated in some part like factory. So there is the provision of the consolidated return. So in clubbing all that, it becomes 22 different returns. But when these four new codes will be implemented, so there will be the only four return you have submit. But exactly there is the data you need to provide same as the consolidated. However, the broad data you have to submit there. But the documentation work will be reduced for the people who are dealing with the labor law compliances as well as the service providing. Then their licensing you provide, then before it was two, now you need to obtain three. Then a display of the different abstract related to the law. Earlier it was 20, and now when these four new codes will be implemented, so it will be 13 number now. Then a different registration which are provided, earlier it was five, and then now it will be only three. Then the remittance of the contribution that is under the PF and size, it will be remain same under the new provision too. So let's have basically as per the compliance part to the organization, but we have discovered in the first part what is the pain point for the organization related to the compliance, and now what is going to be happen change and why you should be very much aware about that. And here I have also shared with you the four quality of a labor law compliance specialist, and these learning and understanding will assuredly develop these four qualities within you, and you will definitely help the organization to not impacting from these new provision. And I will also share with you some concept and tool how you can be prepared for these new obligations and implementation which will be become applicable for your organization when these four new codes will be implemented. So the code on page 2019, so that four existing act has been merged in that, so that if we see the provision related to the obligations, their fine as well as the imprisonment provision provided. However, under the existing labor law, which are merged, which has been merged under the code on page 2019, so there was a minimum fine for any obligation. It was minimum 500 rupees and a maximum 20,000 rupees, and the imprisonment provision was up till 6 months. But when these four new codes will be implemented, and specifically the code on page 2019 will be implemented, so there are the provision of fine minimum 20,000 rupees and a maximum 50,000 rupees. If there are any obligation which will become non-conformity under the provision of the law, and that will be multiple like five number. So if the for one it is 50,000 rupees, by five it will be 2 lakh and 50,000 rupees fine your employer needed to be, that will be imposed to your employer, and that need to be paid by your employer. So it is going, the new code is specifically impacting the organization financial condition too. That's why you need to be understand the provision of these act thoroughly and with specific practical knowledge where you can save your organization from such financial impact. So similarly, there are the certain provision which has been introduced in the new industrial code 2020, and the provision or the obligation which has been prescribed is not fulfilled. However, the provision are same that we have already discussed in the previous section when we thoroughly discussed about the different existing labor law. So, in the Industrial Relation Code 2020, the three major acts which has been merged under that, the provision are related to the, if any obligation not fulfilled, so there was a provision of fine minimum 100 rupees and maximum 5,000 rupees only, and there was no provision related to the imprisonment for the employer. But when the new Industrial Relation Code 2020 will be implemented, so there the fine, it will be imposed to an employer for a single non-fulfillment of any obligation or the non-conformity. So it is minimum 50,000 rupees and a maximum 2 lakh rupees. And imprisonment under the Industry Dispute Act, it has been incorporated there up till 1 year now. Earlier it was not there, and now if there are certain provision provided under the referencing of the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 in the provision of the Industrial Relation Code 2020, so there is the provision provided for the 1 year of imprisonment to your employer. Similarly, the Social Security Code 2020, so there are the certain existing labor law has been merged in that. As per the existing labor law, if we see, if there are certain obligations not fulfilled, so that the fine will can be or will be imposed to an employer minimum 500 rupees or maximum 20,000 rupees only, and imprisonment provision is the minimum 3 months to maximum 3 years. But in the provision of the Social Security Code 2020, that define specifically the punishment for offenses under the provision or specifically non-fulfillment or fulfillment of the obligations, that the fine will be imposed to an employer minimum 50,000 rupees. The provision has been made under the every section or the incorporated provision of the new code. It is minimum fine 50,000 rupees. However, in the one code that is the minimum that payment of wage code, it is 20,000 rupees minimum. But the other code, it is the minimum 50,000 rupees. And if we see in the provision of the Social Security Code 2020, so it is 50,000 rupees minimum and maximum it is 1 lakh rupees. And there are the imprisonment provision, it is minimum 6 months and maximum it will be go up till 3 years. Otherwise, there are also provisions when the penal and that the panel discussion or the tribunal discussion will be happen there related to the court's case specific. So there will be that provision of the fine as well as the imprisonment both can be imposed to the employer. Then similarly, the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020. So there are the certain existing act or the law has been merged under the code. So if we see the provision under the existing law or the Labor Act related to the fine for non-fulfillment of the obligations. So that was a minimum, or that is as of now the act are in practice. So there is the provision of fine minimum 500 rupees and maximum 1 lakh rupees, and imprisonment it is minimum 3 months and up till maximum live of 2 years. But when the new code on occupational safety, health and working condition will be implemented, it will impact your employer financially too much. So the fine provision there are minimum 50,000 rupees and maximum 5 lakh rupees, and imprisonment it is up till straight 2 years in the factory, specifically factory, mines and docks, and maximum the existing labor law are applicable to the factories provision. So under the factories, the fine is 5 lakh rupees for a single non-fulfillment of obligation. If there are 2 or 3 obligations, if you counted it maximum, it will be maybe 5 also. So it will be 25 lakh rupees of fines. So it is the opportunity for you to learn how to deal with these new acts and assure the compliances of these provisions in the organization. So here we have prepared one representation for you. What are the major changes will happen when these new codes will be implemented? So first change is there, which is going to be impact all the organization, that is the page specific. So earlier there was different types of wage definition, 16 types of wage definition provided under the different code. So what is the changes happen? So there is the one uniform definition provided for the wage specifically in referring or consideration to the all 4 codes that are specifically, there will be a basic pay, there will be dearness allowances and the retirement allowances. So this is also the new definition for the wage provided. One is the basic, so there will be 3 major components. First one is the basic pay, then dearness allowances and the retirement allowances for the organization, that every individual you are engaging in the organization. And that new concept or the uniform definition related to wage, that is impacting the financial, or that is impacting the organization as well as individual financially. How? As per the new concept, the basic wage will be 50% of the total wage you are paying to an employee. So now when these new 4 codes will be implemented, that you need to be restructure your salary structure in your organization, and the 50% of your wage should be as the basic pay or basic salary or basic wage to an employee. So how it will be impacted financially when the basic wage will be 50% of the total wage. So there what happened as of now, every deduction that related to the contribution that happen on the basic. So as of now, basic has a specific guideline there, and it is around 30 to 50% of their total wages, and in the different state it is different. But now as the provision of a new code, it will be straight 50% of the total wage. So then when the it will impact related to the contribution, which is paid by the employer, that will increase when the minimum wage or the pay and the basic wage for the deduction of contribution, it will be 50% of the total wage. Then it will also impact financially the employee, because when the contribution will be deducted on the 50% of their wage, so that their take home salary will be reduced. However, their social security part will be increased, but the immediate cash which required for the daily needs, that will be reduced, and it will impact them financially. Then under the provision of the new 4 codes, so there are the separate definition provided for the worker and employer. It has been categorized earlier under the Factory Act and other act. Therefore, the employer is one person who is not a worker, and rest of employee you are engaging in your organization instead of the occupier, they all are come under the definition of worker. And now in the provision of the new code, there has been this definition has been separated as worker as employee. Then there is also introduced the concept of the floor wage. Based on that floor wage, so there will be every state will define their minimum wage or prescribe their minimum wage. And there are also provided provision that every 5 years this floor wage will be reviewed by the government. As I mentioned in the beginning, that in the 2021 we are having or we are following the wage minimum wage concept based on the 1991 as of now. So there are also provided the provision in the new code specifically related to the period of payment of wage. So it becomes straight 7 for every n number of employee you are engaging in the organization. Then provision related to the standing order. So it has been introduced that it is applicable for the 300 number of worker you are engaging in your organization. Then the grievance committee, it is required under every industrial establishment where you are engaging the 20 and more worker in your organization. There was a provision provided related to the aggregator also. So aggregator is provided the who is helping the organization to implementing the new codes and its provision. The aggregator is will be only the inspecting authority as of now, so he will also play a role of the aggregator. But as of the state provision and the state rules specifically, they have many state has been drafted but still not finalized. Due to that, the codes are still pending for implementation, so it will be depend on the state rules specifically, but they define for the aggregator finally. Then the reduction for the gratuity period is also exists as per the existing gratuity act 1972. It is a 5 year, but in the provision related to the new code, it has been reduced for the 3 years. When these codes will be implemented, and that gratuity you need to pay based on the 3 year of service in the organization. There are also provided the provision related to the annual health check of every employee who are engaging in your organization by the organization employer on their own cost, and it is mandatory provision has been incorporated in the new codes. There are also provided the provision, however, as per the existing level of many organizations, you just encash the leave, the earned leave specifically, if that has been more than the accumulative number of leave. But there are now made provision that no leave will be less, and all the leaves, even that is a casual leave and sick leave, that you need to be encashed to the employee if that are not availed by an employee for the year. There are also provided provision for the carry forwarding of the casual leave and sick leave. Maximum number it will be 30. Then the employment of women, it has been consented in the night shift, that is beyond the 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., but there need to be have certain provision and with the consent of the female and their provision to and fro, and this their safety and security you need to be facilitated. Then the aging any person on overtime, so that you require the consent of that employee, and it is become mandatory to pay the double wage of overtime as per the provision of new codes. So here we have prepared one representation for you that will help you when you have to restructure your wage structure in your organization related to the concept of the basic wage. The 50% wage is going to be changed. So here is the one representation for you. I'm sharing that with you here. So here it is, I think the screen is visible for you. So as of now, the concept or the which has been prescribed by the every state government, the minimum wage has the two major parts. One is the basic wage, which is provided as per the skill base, and then the dearness allowances, which has been revised every 6 months based on the inflation rate increased. Then we have prepared different scenario related to the contribution you need to be deduct under the provision of the new wage. So as per the existing, if we keep separate the new code as per the existing, so that there is a basic wage which is including to the dearness allowances. Then there are the provision related to the providing of some allowances like house rent allowances. And then if a person The basic wage you are providing, that is the minimum wage, and then you are providing to them the house rent allowances, that is the 4,000. The total wage for an employee or a worker, that is 12,000 rupees. Based on that, for PF there is the capping of 15,000 rupees. Capping means if the basic wage is more than 15,000 rupees, you can deduct based on the 15,000 rupees only. But however, as per the existing rule, so their basic is less than the 15, so you will deduct the amount based on the actual basic. So in the first scenario, so there it is the 8,000 rupees, and your contribution for the PF is 960 rupees for the employee, as well as same from the employer also. But when this new code or concept of the minimum wage or basic wage, 50% of total wage will be implemented, so there you need to deduct the contribution and remittance the contribution as 1440 rupees, because you cannot, that is the basic 50% of your basic wage, or otherwise if the basic wage is the 12,000 rupees only, the minimum wage is 12,000 rupees, you need to be deduct the PF on all the amount, so it will be 1440 rupees. If we see the scenario number two, if any employee, the minimum wage defined by the government, that is 12,000, you are also paying the 4,000 of house rent, then condensing allowance, the 2,000 rupees, and washing allowance 2,000 rupees. Accordingly, your wage is total, the gross salary. It is when it comes to the purview of the labor code or labor law, so it is the gross wage where you are paying a monthly basis. The retirement part is not a part of that. So when you consider the concept of wage, it is for the gross salary. So gross salary, if you have the multiple component in that, and the minimum wage of the state is the 12,000 rupees, as per the existing labor law, you can deduct up till 1,800 rupees of the PF. But if the new code will be, when it will be implemented, so that you need to be deduct that based on the 50% of their salary. 50% will be the basic salary, so that will be 12,000, it will be deducted only 12,000, or here is the 1,440 rupees. So here somewhat the employer have some relaxation to do not pay much amount of the contribution. Then in the scenario number three, if there any person whom you are paying the 24,000 rupees of their salary, and then you need to be paid the deduct contribution on the 50% of their wage, so it is the 12,000 rupees, and 12,000 is the minimum wage also, or a basic wage also, then the amount will be same. And similarly, the provision for if you are engaging the international worker in your organization, so now there will be reduction related to the PF contribution, so when it will be 50% of their total. However, earlier it was for on full wage, and then now it is for the 50%. So accordingly, you need to be deduct the PF contribution for the international worker with whom we do not have the social security treaty. So that you need to be deduct the on the 50% of their total wage you are paid. So this is the scenario related to the provident fund provision and its contribution. You need to be deduct as per the provision of new code. Then related to the gratuity also, so their gratuity you need to be paid, it is the statutory right for every employee. Then as per the gratuity act, so there is provided the provision that it should be on the basic wage only, but when the basic wage will be 50% of the total gross salary, so it will be increased. In the case of gratuity, the payout will be increased, and it will financially impact the employer. Then there are some retrenchment where you are providing some compensation, so there for the compensation, however, as of now the compensation is calculated based on the gross salary, but in the new code it will be calculated on the basic wage, because all the calculation and that contribution will be based on the basic pay, and that basic pay is 50% of their total wage. Total wage means the gross wage. So in that case, if you need to be pay any compensation to an employee, so it will be less amount than as per the existing provision. So it will also have some relaxation for the employer. Then under the Factories Act, so there the minimum wage provision, like that as per the Factories Act, so there the basic wage and DA, that is the minimum wage which we define. But the new provision that the basic wage or the basic pay should be 50% of that. So you need to be decide, like if you are paying to any employee 38,500 rupees and their basic wage should be 14,000 rupees and 250 rupees, which you need to be defined in the new structure. You have to restructure your salary structure fully when these new codes will be implemented. Then similarly, there are the provision as per you when the tax provision you need to provide, you can provide a best of the tax calculation and save the tax for your employee, that you need to be consider as a provision. We have also made this presentation for you, so this template it will be reached to you as it is for your references and future. It was related to the provision and the new concept. You need to be restructure your salary and you need to be learn thoroughly about this, so you can utilize these templates which I have shared with you for your references. So this was all about the section 1. Now let's move with the section 2. So section 2 is specifically related to the implementation and learning about the statutory compliance and management portfolio, how you can comply with the provision of the statutory compliances in your organization. That system I will share with you, which make you more vigilant, more foresighted, more accountable and responsible, which will help you in your career as well as helping your organization for impacting for the non-complying of the regulation or the obligation provided or prescribed under the different labor law. So here in this statutory compliance management portfolio, we are learning the concept of the three pillar. In the three pillar, the pillar number 1 is related to the three layer of compliance structure. So first, you need to understand the compliance, what is it and what it is structure is that. So before that, I have here one presentation for you, and that presentation will help you to understand that what you need to be follow and what you need to do when you have to implement this compliance structure or this portfolio in your organization, to helping your organization for foolproofing compliance in the organization related to the labor act. So here I'm sharing with you this specific, I'm sharing with you that what you need to do. So it is a one small representation we have provided related to what you need to be considered while having a compliance or audit structure in your. There is a few points related to this is referring the factories, because we have measure of the factories in. So here one small that representation we have prepared for you, what you need to be considered. If you are for exemplifying as a factory, so if you are working in a factory or you are a service provider for the factory, so there you need to be assured or keep the mind certain points related to the having or implementing this particular level of compliance management portfolio in your organization. So as per the provision provided under the Factories Act, so there should be a some key point which you need to be keep in mind while introducing or implementing concept of the labor law compliance management portfolio, and that you require one the valid factory license and its renewal on time and its period of renewal. Then the annual return you need to be submit, and with that you need to be check out the detail thoroughly, and you need to be learn that how to collect the data for that, how to fill up all that applicable requirement of the information you need to be furnished in that properly, then mention against the is supporting. You need to be prepare certain supporting for that. You need to submit with such compliances related to the proof of your compliance which has been facilitated in your organization. And there are the provision half yearly and monthly return or the annual return under the provision of the Factories Act. Then proper maintenance of the accident register, the timely intimation of the accident to the factory inspector and the other authority within the 48 hour and within 24 hour as per the provision or the category of the accident. If that is the fatal, that is the disability and partial disability, whatever is that, accordingly you need to be check certain points in that. Then overtime which need to be paid double rate of the ordinary wage. Then all the register which has been prescribed that need to be kept up to date as per the provision of the Factories Act. Then every factory as well as the every industry establishment, they are engaging the employee through contract, as well as which is known in the corporate world as the outsourcing employee. So that is the contract labor is applicable for all the organization. So for that, what you need to check, so first of all, there should be a resolution under the act by the principal employer and license from the or by the contractor or the service provider. Then there one annual return which need to be submitted by the employer, then half yearly return by the contractor. Then there the wage that should be paid above the minimum wage and proper overtime that should be paid to every outsource or the contractual employee. Then their periodical checkup, if that are in the critical operation, you are engaging them. Then as per the bonus act, so there you need to be thoroughly check out the calculation based on their wage you are providing, and then their return submitted under the bonus act. Then all the register they be set on set off that you need to be learn how to calculate that. It is a major part for the provision provided under the bonus act. Then the payment of wage and minimum wage act, there you need to be check out that all the provision or record which required to maintain that should be thoroughly maintained and with the systematic way as well as updated as required. And wage, all wage should be paid above than the minimum wage and paid on time. Then payment of gratuity, that you need to be check or update the period of service of every employee. If the existing employee, that you need to be very much sure about that, and if they have the person who has been exist from the organization, they have worked more than 5 years, and for that you need to be check their gratuity has been paid or not. Then your Social Security Act, the PF and ESI, there are certain provisions which you need to be follow, while the UN number issued to every individual, and then under ESIC the insurance card has been issued to them. Then proper deduction of the contribution, that you need to be checked that for the ESIC as well as the PF, and that is submitting to the board, specifically the organization ESIC and PF, that has been submitted even that by the employer as well as the contractor. So it is a mandatory point you need to check it. Then similarly, as per the industry establishment and then industry establishment standing order act, so that it needs to be checked the applicability. However, it is certifying applicable for 100 manpower you are engaging in your organization, but there are the certain provisions related to the model standing order you need to be understand and thoroughly referring all that provision, referring to the industrial standing order 1956. Then there are the industry dispute act, it is applicable for the every factor. So there is the provision provided related to the committee, their meetings or their different points they have discussed and displayed their resolution they have provided, they should be recorded every organization, even that specifically we are talking here as exemplified factories, so it should be applicable there. Then the safety provision provided in every industrial establishment as well as the factories, so that you need to be considered or facilitate the provision related to the factories. Then the safety shoes, then if there are any workers who are working on the cranes, then on height, so they should be provided the helmet. Then fire extinguisher, it should be proper as they put the place, and it should be active and up to date. There should not be any expiring medicine you can, however there are the code provision that now you cannot utilize the medicine in your organization, you can only utilize the first aid kit in your organization. Then the compliance in term of the member and its committee, so there is the provision related to the welfare officer you need to appoint when there are 500 more workers, and safety officer where there are the 1,000 or more workers. Then safety committee formed if the safety officer appointed, so there is the worker committee you need to be incorporate or constitute in organization when there are 100 and more workers. And then internal plan committee in the POSH Act cases 2000 POSH Act 2030. So when there are 10 or more workers, if there are female available or not, but you need to be constitute the internal complaint committee. Then the canteen should be there or provided the canteen service. Then occupational health center you need to provide it for 100 and more workers, and the factory carrying of the hazard process that you need to be followed. So this is just a representation, so you will also get this file for your references when you are implementing this labor law compliance portfolio in your organization, you need to be understand thoroughly the point in your organization which you need to keep in mind. But you cannot keep in mind till then you do not develop a system there. So that system I'm now sharing with you how you can establish the labor law compliance management. Now, in the statutory compliance management portfolio, the pillar number one, it is about the three layer of compliance structure. So first we need to understand the compliance. Every applicable labor law which is applicable for your organization, they have the three layers. So that's why you need to divide it in the three layers. So first is the what are the certain approvals you require to obtain. Then based on those approvals, what are the instruction provided in that and other referring or the other labor law which are applicable to your organization with that particular approval, and that you need to be make provision of that, and based on those provisions you need to be maintain the records of that. Then third layer of the structure is the specifically the submitting of the compliance or remittance of the compliances to the authority based on the facilitation you have done in your organization. So what you have to do for that? So you need to be prepare a system specifically that can provide you a vigilance and that you can have that on a fingertips. So here I'm sharing with you one template, so which is one of the master platform which you can utilize for your organization. Before that, we have prepared one biggest checklist for you for covering the every act which you can utilize at your organization as it is for referring of the provision related to the applicable law for the organization. So let's have a look for that. So how you need to be deal with the three specific layer related to the. So here is one specifically the template we have prepared as a Vigilant chart for you. So you can utilize this chart specifically. It is you can also print out this on one three page, or you can paste it in front of your desk where it is provided for you the vigilance and foresighted what are the applicability of the law for your organization after approval, what are the approval you have obtained, and what is the next steps. So accordingly you can utilize this same format in your organization. So where in the top the approval, what are the government approvals required for your organization, that should be at one place, and that provided you the their status, their next action you required, and when it is going to be a new, and when it is valid for a period of time, then the next steps you need to be required for that. Similarly, then it come to the layer number two. The layer number two is related to the records you need to be maintained based on the different approval provided. So if we discuss about the factory specifically, so there are the different records you need to be maintained in the prescribed format. So what are those? Their frequency you need to be decide that what date is applicable for renewing and updating those documents, you need to be furnished that, and you can utilize this format as it is, where as per the minimum wage what are the records you need to be maintained and what is the due date. Due date means on the date it should be, or before the date it should be updated. So the person who will be the person responsible for updating on that, then the status for if it is monthly, then you need to be prepare it accordingly. Then if there are the other leave records you need to maintain, so what are the act applicable for the organization, accordingly records you need to be maintained, that you can, and then other displays related to the notices, then abstract under the different applicable levels, that will become in the layer of second, where you need to be maintain the records of facilitation of the different applicable labor law and its provision in your organization. Then it come to the layer number third. Layer number third is related to the submitting of the compliance. Now, whatever you have combined in the organization, that status you need to be submit to the authority. So for that, what you have to do, like if you are working in the factory and shop and commercial establishment in the provision of the factory, There you need to be submit the annual return. So it is the form number may be different from in the different state, but the provision are same. There is the half yearly, then their due date. Due date means the day or the date when it should be received to the authority. If it received after this date, so that is not fully compliant. So the person who is responsible for first preparing, collecting the data, and then submitting, and what is their frequency and the period that you need to be marked in that template which you can utilize. So whatever the act is applicable for your organization, however we have incorporated all those acts in the master sheet, or this is the master template for you reaching to the level of the compliance management portfolio in your organization. And then what are the records, what are the due dates? It is similarly same in all the states of India. However, the change point is related to the form number. So in the state, so form number may be different, so you need to be refer that for your particular state, and otherwise you can utilize as it is this master calendar or the master template related to the labor law compliance portfolio, so that you can place it at your desk, as well as it will be make you vigilant and foresighted. What is the next step you require to do, and what are the next due date? Before that, you need to be initiate your action for complying with the provision. So it will be make you more vigilant and foresighted related to the compliances there due and happening in the future. So this master template will be reached to you as it is for your references and future uses. Display at your desk or area where you frequently utilize the area, or way it is better to paste or place it as your desk, so that it can help you to understanding the requirement of the future and what you need to do, your action that you need to be incorporated in that. So this is all about the pillar number one, the three layer of compliances. So now it come to how you reach to this level or this master template. So there you need to be, because one, you are utilizing it as it is, but when you work systematically to reach to this level, you need to work on the basic. So you need to have a groundwork for that, how you reach to that. For that, you need to be follow a process. So here I'm sharing with you the three layer of process related to the level of compliance portfolio management in your organization. So that have this process have the three layer. So first layer is the internal compliances. So internal compliances means you are learning the new concept or this concept today to facilitate the compliance and a systematic way in organization. So first it come to the your organization's internal compliances. So here I'm also sharing with you one of the greatest checklist which you can utilize for your whatever the templates. So Anand is asking, so can you send the statutory calendar? Of course, we have committed it where you have registered, you have seen there, you will get all those template we share in this program. However, you are getting this video too, which you can utilize in the future. So whatever the templates I'm sharing here will, don't worry for that. It will become to you automatic. It is our concept, it is our value to provide a valuable learning to every individual whom engage with us as with the Sbr Learning Studio, not with me Srinivasan. I'm an individual, but with the organization Sbr Learning Studio, you will get more of that what we are seeing. So you will get whatever the templates I'm sharing with you here, you will get that. However, by today itself, or otherwise tomorrow morning, you will get all those templates. So don't worry for that. Whatever the templates we are sharing here, you will get that. So now we are discussing here how to reach that calendar level, or that level where you are working, say, by yourself. We have seen in the organization the people who are dealing with the compliance, what they do, they only say they have done this, they have done that, but ultimately when there the actual inspection or audit happen related to the labor law compliances, then there are n numbers of non-conformity. Why is that? Because compliance is a one part where you do not have to say by yourself, it should be said by your work. So that's why we have designed this practical program specifically. It will help you to, you do not have to say yourself that you have done this. By the system developing, you just have to implement this system in your organization. It will automatically, it will be a auto mode for your working to report to say in the organization. So that's why I have also shared with you in the beginning, this program will provide you the four quality of the labor law compliance specialist. Furthermore, it will also have the value for rebuilding your credibility. It will also provided you the specifically where you will or you can brand yourself as a specialist and have a value tagline for yourself where you can ask, frankly, if I say, when you learn this concept thoroughly, our mission is not to be stopped here. We want to engage with you throughout the life till then you are a professional. So that's why we are providing the hand holding solution. You can implement these concepts in your organization. If you feel anything that you are stuck in somewhere, you have provided the groups there, you can ask the question, even that your colleagues or participants, they will provide the answer to you, and then we will also provide such answer to you which you asking to them. So don't worry for that, everything we will provide to you. So here we are talking about how to reach to that level. So there you need to be go in the three layer. First, there is the internal compliance. So internal compliances mean, so we are providing these document to you. You can implement it by yourself or thoroughly audit your organization. But individually, when you work, there can be something lacking. So first important thing, you need to introduce a audit committee for your organization, specifically related to the labor law compliance. So that should be some HODs, and they will also provide you to the third party viewpoint, as well as they will also help you to collecting the data, because you are an administration for the administrator for the labor law compliances. You cannot do everything, because the people who are in the labor law compliances as of now, they do everything by themselves. They are not defining the person of concern for that. So that's why most of the compliance people, they fail. So that's why they engage certain agencies outside who are dealing with the labor law compliance services. The agencies come to your location for twice in a month. They just see your document, and otherwise you need to do all that thing. Then there is one practice related to the end table. You need to pay your compliance is that. But in the future, there is such practice will not work now. You need to be thoroughly understand the concept of compliance. You need to implement that. You need to be follow that if you have to succeed your career, first of all, and second, you will build that credibility in your organization as an individual, as a department who are dealing with the compliance, because compliance is becoming a great part for organization, for individual as a learning and growth. Earlier in the HR, there was the strategic HR, HRBP, that was a huge growth segment. But now compliance is becoming a bigger part of your growth. So here we are discussing about the three layer of compliance process, where in the internal compliances, how to reach there, what you have to do that. So here we have prepared one thoroughly checklist for you, which you can utilize to assessing your organization for the provision under the different labor law. So I'm sharing with you one broad master's checklist we have prepared specifically for your learning and thoroughly understanding or knowing the status of compliance in your organization. So if you see that, we have incorporated all that applicable act related to the factory. However, maximum number of acts apply to the factories. This will be applicable to the other industry. So that is the shop and commercial, that is your hotel, that is restaurant, that is IT. All that provision come when it is there is some point which is open, and it would they refer the different clauses of the different acts, and they go for the conclusion. Accordingly, you need to be have the knowledge about and practical knowledge about all the aspect under the different labor law provided for a particular thing. If that is a working hours, So there the provision provided for the working hour, even that is factory, shop and commercial and other, so that is differently provided, and that will be clearly understanding of the requirement and their concept defined. So similarly we have made the provision here in this that master compliance checklist for you, under the provision of which section whatever you required to fulfillment, what is the requirement for a organization. Then if there any certificate required, their reference required, so that you can incorporate that. Then what is their status and what should be ideally, so we have incorporated that, and that you can utilize at your organization checkpoint. Based on this checkpoint you can utilize this key as a audit checklist. Then the concerned person, however their maximum the HR people are the concerned person, so that's why then the person who is responsible, you need to be define a responsibility for that, like you need a data related to the man days and man hour. You are not calculating it by yourself, it will be done by the people who are dealing with the time office and compensation that payroll system. So for that you need to be define a person in concern for that particular data, so that you can establishment this concept successfully, and your compliance in the organization will be thoroughly foolproof, as that is the biggest point for your organization and your that employer, and it will help you to helping your employer to comply with the requirement of the applicable compliances in your organization. Then their frequency, when it is start and when you required, so what is the period, like there is the license required under the factories act, so it is depend on the organization for what period you, it is for 1 year, it is 3 years, it is maximum for 5 years. So it is based on your requirement how long you want to obtain the license, so this you can also check it accordingly. Then if there is any point required, and then you can submit there the next action. You need to be incorporate for correcting all that, and then you can also provided the authentication of the person of concern to whom you have shared and whom you have made responsible under the provision. So there we have covered near about 17 different labor laws which are applicable for the organization as of now, the existing labor. So you can utilize this master template, so we are sharing this with you. You can utilize it for the future references as well as for your organization from tomorrow itself. So it will be reached to you by today also, if not today, so backend team it will be sent you by tomorrow before 11 a.m. Pillar number two, that is the three layer of compliance. So how you need to be reach there. So how to reach to this level. So utilize this master checklist we are providing to you. Then you need to be prepared internal checklist based on that, how to reach that the first compliance calendar. So let's begin with the how you have to reach to this level. So further that is provided, you need to be have follow some system. So in the layer number one of that process is the internal compliances, how to reach there. You need to be follow based on the thoroughly concept we have provided to you. Based on that you need to be follow the internal system. So now I'm sharing that with you, what you need to be template I'm sharing with you related to you reaching to the first layer of the internal compliance. So based on that checklist which we have provided to you, where the 18 to 19 act we have covered, and that based on that you need to be provide the internal audit when you have done, and based on that you need to be prepared this master compliance calendar, their actual plan, what you have to do, and then after you need to be decide for that actual when your plan, and then actually you need to be regulated that. Based on this master checklist you will prepare that first one which you require to display at your desk, that will make you vigilant, foresighted and accountable, then responsible related to the compliance, and that are the core qualities of labor law compliance specialist. So it is also similarly that here you need to be decide that your plan, and actually when you are completing all that open points, so it will be based on all that return you require to submit, and based on the records you need to be maintained for the required compliances under the provision of the act. So this master template will be reached to you as it is for your references as well as future uses. So then let's go with the layer number two. So layer number two is related to the agencies compliances. So here agencies compliances means every organization, if you are in the factory as well as the shop and commercial establishment or another establishment, so you are engaging the manpower. One is on contractor as one as the, which is known also as outsourcing. So it is the responsibility of the principal employer, as well as you are also engaging the third party vendor for the compliance in your organization. So if you are a service provider, you can utilize this template for auditing of such parties. If you are a principal employer, you can utilize it for the your agencies like contractor and service provider. So what we have to do that we have prepared one template for you, which you require to be. So here is one Excel sheet we have specifically prepared that which you can utilize for the agencies, as well as if you are the service provider, you can use it for your employer. So there specifically here we have provided the all applicable law which are applicable for a contractor as well as the outsourcing manpower. So what required under the provision of the contractor, they should have the license for that. Then their prescribed format which has been defined as per the state specific, so it should be there. And then there one certificate of engagement by the employer that should be there. So you need to be marked the status here, so it is applicable, it is available or not. Then your finding you should be marked here. And then the if there is the further action required to be period of time, that you need to be mentioned here. So it is better to implement this labor law compliance portfolio in or organization and assure the 100% compliance. So better thing which I recommend here, to introduce the quarterly audit for your agencies, your vendors, your supplier, whatever is to whom you are doing. If you are a principal employer for your contractor, if you are a service provider for your client, do it in the quarterly basis. So it will be help your trust and your quality. That will also improve your credibility in the organization as well as service provider. So this template will be reached to you as it is. So all that referring labor law and the three layer of provision, there the record required and approval required, as well as your requirement, and then the return you need to be submit, that we have incorporated in that. You can utilize this format as it is for your records and implementing in your organization. So now there is the one most important part related to the compliances process. It is the layer number third. Ultimately the compliance is specifically the regulation provided under the law that has been regulated, monitored, and the provision defined by the appropriate agencies which has been appointed by the state government. So ultimately, you are maintaining the compliance not for your employer, on behalf of your employer, to the agencies who regulate or monitor the provision which has been provided during the approval has been granted to you. So for that, here I am sharing one specific tool which you can utilize throughout the India, any state. It will help you to develop this concept, and that concept will also help you to work one step ahead to the agencies. So for that, you need to be know about how that agencies work and what are their internal system. They will inspect you and comply with provision. So when you develop this concept and you have thoroughly worked on this thorough concept, you can also ask to the agencies why such thing you are referring as a non-conformity under the provision. So here we have specifically arranged the one internal provision or system of the agencies, the government agency, how they work, how they what is their system for compliant or auditing your organization. Such provision for you. So that is, however, this is from Haryana state, and you can utilize it in the other states also. They have the same provision, but it is not possible. You can collect, if it is possible for you, you can collect from your states. That will help you. Otherwise, you can utilize it. That provision of the central law are similar in other state, but the changes is that there is the document which you need to be submit their form number, and a little bit they have been bifurcated in two and three parts. That is the small difference in the state specific, and then the form number provided a fee specifically related to when you have to obtain any registration, any license under the provision. So what is this concept? So here is specifically under the provision of the factory of the labor law, when it come applicable to an organization, so there is the certain application or system inside the agencies they have developed. Based on that, they inspect your organization. So there is under the section and the rule what is applicable and what you need to fulfill accordingly. You can utilize this checklist for assessing and making the provision. This sheet will help you that the in the process. First biggest sample and I have shared with you that sheet we have prepared based on this internal system to helping you to implement that compliance portfolio in your organization. So here all that provision which are applicable under the provision of factories and other referencing law, it will helping you have a detailed audit system in your organization as per the prescribed agencies know. And if you work as per, you can also question inspecting authority related to their internal system they have developed. We have thoroughly discussed on that this process we have collected from a specific state. However, it is similar in all the organization or all the state in India, so you can refer that. Based on this system, we have developed that first layer, first template we have shared with you thoroughly. So what is that? I'm sharing with you. So this is the one thoroughly checklist I have shared with you in the beginning in the process specifically, so that you can utilize this checklist based on that internal system. When you develop or establish this system in your organization, you can also challenge the agencies, the government agencies who will come to you for inspection, and you can save your organization for that paying illegal money to them. It will also build your credibility, and that will also share in your organization how exactly or systematic way you are working in the organization. So this is about the three layer of compliance process in the pillar number two related to the statutory compliance and management portfolio. Then and it comes to the pillar number three. So that is related to the reporting of the compliance. So now here, as I mentioned in the beginning, when you establishment this system, so it is the system that you do not have to say about your working related to the compliance. It will say you yourself when you implement this system what the work you have done. So here when you have to report the compliance status, the working you have done your organization to your management, so how you have to report it very specifically and very strategic way, so that your organization or your management have more trust on you, as well as they have believe on you. You can work as a system. You can work a system for your organization, as well as you are working in a systematic way to save your employer from the certain obligation under the provision of the different applicable act. However, in the future, it will also help you when the obligation and the punishment, imprisonment, and financial impact is going to be too much heavy on the organization. You need to be introduce this system, and then how you need to be report that this you will follow this system. I'm sharing it here with you right now. So what we have to do, however, your management, the people who are in the management, they are the business minded people. They do not have that time to spend with you for hours and many hours. So here we have developed specifically one concept which you can utilize for your organization, that reporting your working. This will help you how to report your working in a 5 or 10 minute to your organization. So it is also divided based on the three specific layers we have discussed in the structure. So what are the approval available? If you have working in the multiple locations, so you can share the such in the one nugget statement of point that it is compliant or not compliant. Then there are certain point open that you need to be shared based on the compliance or their status. Then the compliance status you need to be shared with the agencies, so their status you need to be shared with your management as well as their records you are maintaining. Then further countermeasure, if you are what you are doing, if there is some non-conformity and non-compliant provision or obligations are there or any point open for compliance, that you can mention here as a countermeasure for the future. So you can utilize this one pager presentation for your organization where you need to be present. However, when you develop or implement this system, you display that at your desk, as well as you may have some corner related to the legal compliances and statutory compliance display. So where there you need to be display all dashboard. So every person, your department, your other department, they will see that system you have developed, that will automatically tell about your working style and your system you can develop in your organization. When your management have certain question, what you have exactly done in that, or what is the open point, so you can utilize this particular. So if there is any open point related to the approval, you can also share that. And then there is related to the different types of compliances related to the return or the compliance status submitted to the agencies, and then after the records you need to be maintained. So this you can utilize this format as it is for reporting of your compliance. So this is for your internal reporting specifically, and this will help you to conclude your reporting just in 5 to 10 minutes, and it will also help you to rebuild that credibility and develop that system or develop the trust by the employer on you, that you can work in a systematic way. Then after it come to the another one. So another one is the periodical reporting related to if there is any government inspection happen. So periodically you can also report that. So what you need to be check for that periodically inspection and having a foolproof compliance system in your organization, we have prepared one dashboard for you which will help you thoroughly what you need to exactly. However, with this program you do not have to go for some agencies to pick up. You just use to utilize all those templates and the system we have shared with you in your organization. It will help you to establish a foolproof level of compliance system in your organization. So here we have prepared one dashboard for you where we have incorporated thoroughly the provided the exactly solution for implementing the level of compliance. So they are near about 18 different labor laws we have covered, even that is related to the Migrant Workmen Compensation Act, the Union Act 1926. Whatever you require to do in organizations, what are the forms you need to be follow for that. The form may be different from other states, so for that you need to be refer it for the state, but the provision of the description of the form as well as the clause and section provided, then the submission and schedule of that submitted to which authority, and then what is the provision and how you need to submit that, we have incorporated all that to helping you as becoming a level of compliance facilitator in your organization. This dashboard will also reach to you as it is for your working and future uses. So all that act which are applicable to the industries, we have covered all that for understanding and your implementation. So for that you do not have to go to some referring some books, some referring some agents. You can do it now by yourself to start implementing this system and having a foolproof system in your organization for complying with the labor law as well as for the future labor laws or the labor code which are going to be implemented soon in the organization or soon in India, and that will become applicable for the every organization. So this was related to the section number 2 where we have discussed and developed specifically the level of compliance management portfolio. You understand that how you will develop it in the organization. And then here you have learned about the three pillar system of the establishing labor law compliance portfolio in your organization. First, you need to understand the three layer of the statutory compliance. First one, there are the applicable approval which you require to obtain. Then certain provision accordingly you need to facilitate and maintain the record. And then after submitting the status of compliance to the agencies which has been appointed by the appropriate government for regulating of the certain provision of the applicable labor law. Then it come to the pillar number two, that is the three layer of process. So in that three layer process, what you have to do? You need to utilize the master checklist we have provided to you, and based on that, you can go for the internal inspection. You can do it by itself also, but it is a broad area, so it is better to establish or incorporate or constitute a compliance committee in your organization, engage your senior member or HOD from different departments so that they can provide you the third party viewpoint, and they will also help you to provide the referring or the data from the other department or the other person in concern related to that data so that you can comply with all the required things before time and assure the 100% compliance before the time period or the due dates provided has been prescribed under the law. Then third layer, where we have learned about the reporting system. So specifically, when you work with this system, this will provide you a reporting system, and accordingly, this will help you to report your work by the working you have done, not by yourself. In the organization, we have seen that the HR people, they only report what they have done in the world. But practically, there is nothing. When there is a government inspection happen, then after that person is not available, otherwise he left or otherwise he has been kicked out by the employer. So that's why this system will help you to implement such system in your organization and helping your organization first. Second, help you to grow in your organization as an individual and helping your department to build that credibility. So this was all about the section 2. Now let's move with the section 3. So section 3 is specifically related to the having question about or the answer related to we have learned in this section. But before that, I want to take your 5 minutes. Here we have one next level development program for you. So I want to share that with you for the next 5 minutes. Then after we will pick up all your question and I will answer all the questions which you will ask in this section. So here we have one specialist program designed specifically who want to enhance their career as a labor law compliance specialist, even that a professional as well as a service provider. So this program is designed and we have given the name it as a 30-day mastery program online labor law compliance specialist. So with the objective of that making you more vigilant, foresighted, and that building your credibility and enhancing your career as a labor law compliance specialist, because the future compliances scenario are going to change and it will help you to learn very basic practical learning related to the four new codes as well as the existing provision that no one can beat with you the provision or complying implementing the system in your organization. So what you will get in this program, so there it is designed based on the live session. So you will be get the 30 plus live sessions for this program. Then it will be based on the practical learning. And when this program will be 30-day or live session will be complete, then after you will get the live or lifetime video access. Whatever the session we have live, that will be recorded and you will get the access to all that recording throughout live. At the time when you want to use that, you can utilize and access our digital platform of that recordings. When this live session or section specifically will be completed, then after you will have two live session related to the updates on the labor law, and then after if you have any issue at your workplace, twice 2 hours we have such live session for addressing your queries and the new updates. So if I say this is not just a one-sided learning program, it is a hand-holding program which we have designed. So we will provide you the hand-holding till lifetime you want any support from our side when you get. And then we will design the standardized format or templates during these live session, and that live templates will get to you the personal custody, and then you will also get the completion certificate as the specialist in the labor law compliances. Then what is exactly in this program, which we have called as the handholding coaching program for individual as well as the group? So it is a weekend program and it will be happen live every Saturday and Sunday. The timing will be 8 to 10 or 10:30. 8 to 10 is the live practical section and 30 minutes for the question and answer. So every day it will be 10, start with 8 p.m. and end by 10:30 p.m. and there will be 2 hours of practical learning where we will learn how to collect the data, how to prepare the data, how to design the templates, that we will discuss and learn practically for these 2 hours related to the different law we are covering under this program. Then exactly what is in this program? So there will be the course flow, how it will be flow. So there will be 30 minutes of overview. That overview will be related to the particular act we are covering. That should be referring with the practical learning we are doing in the next section. So it will be based on the 3-layer practical learning which we have discovered in the master class. That approvals, how to get that record maintained, and then submission, what are the records and the documents provided, and then how you are collecting the data, how that data need to be linkage with the other data so that no one can interpret that data. Then there will be designed a dedicated template for every section or every compliance procedure we will practically design during the program. Then when this live session will be applicable, so it will be start for the 23rd of October, Saturday 8 p.m. the live section. And then after, what is covering in this program specifically, we are covering the 30 plus existing labor law and additionally 4 new labor code, where you will be learn practically how you can become a specialist in labor law compliances. The practical learning we will cover, or we are going to cover in this master program. So then what is the takeaway specifically? And there you will be get 75 hours of practical learning about the program, about the labor law. And then after, technique WSTS, which we have designed specifically for advancing your practical learning. So there exactly we are covering the 33 existing labor law and 4 new acts. So there will be 37 plus existing act with the 4 new codes practically you will be learned, which is divided in the 10 different modules that are related to the specific law which are referring and monitoring. Like that, the module number 1 is related to specifically the working hour, condition of service and employment. Whatever the law which define and regulate the working hour, condition of service and employment, that we will practically learn and prepare all that document and records, whatever required their system, that we will. Week Saturday is 23rd of October, so it is going to be start from there. So then the law related to wage, that is incorporated in the separate law related to the industrial relation, the law related to equality and empowerment of women. There is a separate module designed for this, the practical learning. Then the law related to social security, law related to prohibitive labor, law related to employment and training, law related to company, specifically how the company secretary work, that you will also learn the practical skill during this program. Then law related to the environment and safety separately, and the 4 new code, their provision and application practically we will learn in this program. So here I'm sharing with you the broad curriculum of this program, what we are covering. So in the module number 1, we will cover the 10 plus existing labor law which regulate the working hour, condition of service and employment in the different industry. Even that is factory, shop and commercial establishment, that is the plantation, mines, dock worker and other construction work we will cover in the module number 1, and module number 2 is specifically related to the wages. So there we will cover the three existing labor law: the minimum wage act, payment wage act, and bonus act, there thoroughly, and the practical learning only. Then the industrial relation code, that the module number 3 is specifically based on the existing labor law which define or regulate the industrial relation. Then module number 4 is related to the existing labor law which define or regulate the equality and empowerment of women in the organization. Then module number 5 is based on the existing labor law which regulate and define the social security in the organization, as well as the even the whatever the industrial segment is, the sector is that where the labor law is applicable, that we are covering all that existing labor law in one module, so that your learning will be most preferably practical and in the same spell of understanding all the section related to the social security as well as the particular condition of the law. Then the prohibitive law, we are covering that in the one separate module. Then the employment and training related law, we were covering that in separate module. And then related to the companies, where the Companies Act, the MSME Development Act, and how you need to be registered, and what are the provision, and how the company secretary work. And then Income Tax Act 1961, where you will be learn how to design specifically a salary structure based on the specific provision, and the providing the solution or the provision or helping the employee to best of the tax savvy salary for your individual employee. Then the law related to environment and disaster, and their application, their provision, how to obtain the consent under the provision of Pollution Act, and their water consent, air consent, and then the NOC under fire, their provision, their application, we will practically learn in the module number 9. And module number 10 is specifically related to the new wage code. As of now, this practical learning, no one is have such practical application and learning on these new four codes. So we have designed it based on the practicality, what you have to do and how you have to assure the compliances in future. So exactly, we are covering here the 33 plus and 4 new wage code and new code specifically. So 37 plus codes existing act and 4 new codes will be applicable. So there will be 75 hours of intensive learning. This learning is instead of the 30-minute of you question and answer session, and this will be exactly go more than 100 hours in the 30 plus day. So this is all about the curriculum. Now it come to the specifically you have a query related to if someone who want to be in become the part of a specialist program. So how you can be enroll in that? What will be the pricing? So however, this program, the marketing value price we are providing it, if you go to our website and you can check out there, so it will be costing the 49599, and then after we have certain provision or we have some other platform where we provide a specific cost to you, and it is costing who are the member coming directly to this program, so they pay for this program 11,999 rupees. Even though we as some platform we are also providing the 50% of the discount there, so then it also need to be pay around 6,000 rupees by the individual. But in this master program today, you have already paid something, you are registered with the great learning community of Sbr Learning Studio. So we have one amount here for the member who want to go with the next level to enhance their practical learning related to the compliance and becoming the level of compliance specialist. So here the exclusive fee for the member who want to enroll with this program for this live session only. So that is just 2,999. So this is the final exclusive price. For that, you will get thousands of practical templates which you can use in your organization. Practical learning, more than 75 hours of intensive learning, where you will get the standardized format as a vetted with the legal requirement that you will get in this program. However, with this program paying this such fee, you will also get additionally the mega bonus, that is the two different courses which will get to you today just for free. That is costing around 28,000 rupees. One is the website mastery program. This is a 60-day integrated program where you can understand how to develop, learn, not understand, learn specifically how to develop the website. So website and the especially digital page, it is the mandatory becoming in the digital era for everyone, so you can do it by yourself. Then one important, the advanced excel mastery, it is for every individual who are working, who are professionals. So most of the organization, or 98% organization, they use the excel for their daily working. So the advanced excel you will be learn with this program free of cost, that is costing for the people who individually want to go with this program with the excel mastery, advanced excel, by 13,000. But here with this program you are getting that for the just with the 30-day mastery program, the live online labor law compliance specialist mastery program, just for 2,999. So if anyone who want to go with this program, so here you have a question that how you can join this program. So there is a two different platform. One is you can pay through the Paytm. The scanner is showing on your screen, as well as the Google Pay. However, we will recommend for you the scare PayU system. We have the third party platform for collecting of the payment. You can utilize that. So what you can use that, and where you can go, I'm sharing the link with you in the chat box, so you can utilize this link for joining of this program if you want to go with the further to become specialist in the labor law compliances and enhance as a specialist your career, scale your career, and learning with the career USP, and specifically developing the four quality in within you to become a future leader in the compliance as a specialist. So you can go with this, and this link I have provided in the chat box, so you can utilize this. The people who will submit the fee, they will get a confirmation mail, and those members who will join today, they will go for the orientation session on Friday. Friday is 22nd, 5 p.m. So there will be a orientation session. How you will be get all these which we have mentioned related to the program. Then 30 day you will get the live access to the recording of the videos provided for the lifetime access and other access. How you can get that, where you can utilize that instead of the live system or the live session we will have. So you can also get the program, so they can just check out the link I have shared with you. Check out that. And so someone, Rajesh, I have one request. Please mute your mic. So this link is applicable for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and you can check out there. Yeah, of course. The number you have you receive with the resources where you are in the group. So that number you can also connect on that number with me directly too. So that is the backend number, and we as a promoter of the organization, and I can also be available on that, and other supporting team are also available. So relevantly whatever the question you ask, you can also get that. And if you want to specifically ask the question to me directly, so you can write to us on the email ID which has been shared to you. All the document come that will come to me. So then any query I will share with you, and I will share my personal number with you on that mail only. If you have any question, so we will extend this program till 8:10, and any member who want to go with this program, they can pay out right now and enroll for this program. And if you have any questions, so you can ask them in the chat box, or otherwise you can unmute yourself. Then I will resolve or your query. If that is related to the course, then you can ask that, or if it related to the law or existing level law we have covered during this section, during this session. So you can ask the question related. If you have any question related to the program, so what is this program, and you do not understand it thoroughly, so you can also ask that. So Anand is asking, please share all format. And so Anand, don't worry for that. It is committed before when we have designed this program. Whatever we are sharing, you will get all that given that today itself by the late in night or otherwise tomorrow before 11 a.m. you will get all those documents. So Shweta is asking, for this course whichever we have done today, can we get any certificate? Yes, of course. For certificate, you need to be share your name, what you want to mark on the certificate on the WhatsApp group, otherwise on the mail. When you will receive all those template we used in this program today, and there will be also one comment mentioned in the below side. You need to be reply or revert with your name which you want to mark on the certificate, and the certificate will be released on Wednesday. Today is Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, till Tuesday, you need to share your name, and by Wednesday, the certificate will be released. Those members who will share their name. It is not here. You need to share it in the email, otherwise on the group. So Aditya is asking, can you explain at what time the live session will be taken in 30 days? So it will be start from 23rd October. Every weekend it will be happen on Saturday and Sunday. It will be start 8 p.m. in the evening, and it will be go for 10:30 or above. Then however the program, it will be 2.5 hours every day, so it will be end by 3:30. And if there is the more question and answer question you have with the participant have, so it will be go up till 11 only. However, we try to conclude it by 10:30. Not that such issue. However, today we have some power fluctuation, many time disconnecting in between, so that is not. However, you will get also the full curriculum with that mail which you will receive from the backend team related to this curriculum as well as the template, so you will also get that. However, when you enroll for this program after today, after this live session, so you will not get that two mega program which is as an offer for this live session only, but otherwise the payment that will be same for the fee which is applicable. So it will be provided for 1 and 2, maybe by Wednesday or before that you need to pay for that. However, if you paid right now or you register for the enroll for the program, so you will get the two mega bonuses. So that is the two. One is the program, the website mastery program, and another is the advanced Excel program, where you will be learn the advanced formulation related to the Excel, then preparing of the dashboard, HRMIS, then you will also learn about the VBA visual, how to visualization. You can have such designing of the dashboard in Excel format, so that you will be learn in this program. Shared in the chat box, so you can check out this. Here again, I'm sharing the link with you, the member who want to go with this program, or if you are going with the next 4 minutes, because 8:10 we will wind up this section, this session today. However, it is the longest section longest session we have covered today, beyond 8 p.m. However, a program which was last till 8 only, so it is now 8:06, and we have still alive on this program. So now within 4 minutes we will wind up this session. So if you cannot pay right now, so you can also refer the name here, so that backend team will connect with you for that. But here the question is that you will not get. Okay, thank you so much for wonderful session, and do not forget to share your name for the certificate, and certificate will be released on Wednesday. Okay, thank you so much for joining this program today, and then you will get all the documents. And further, don't forget to share your name for the certificate, and the certificate will be released by Wednesday only. Thank you so much for the great session and joining and participating in this session today.